Good evening. This is CTV News. I'm Byron Scott. Glad to have you with us tonight. Well, the eyes of the nation are on Oklahoma and North Carolina following the recent deaths of black men by law enforcement. The killings adding to the deep distrust between police and the African American communities. Here in Prince George's, county police are finding new ways to try to build positive relationships with residents. Today, the department kicked off its first Chief on the Go event in Brandywine, billed as the informal meeting and greet with district commanders, followed by community conversations with the chief of police. The program will continue monthly in different locations.
I understand that there's concerns around the nation, and frankly, there's concerns in Prince George's County. What I can do as the chief of this organization is to be here, to be accessible, to have frank conversations, to answer tough questions. And while there may be challenges, I think that this is the way that we build trust, we have relationships, and should something happen, ultimately what I hope is that the community will understand that the men and women of this police department will, if it's wrong, we will address it. And if it's right, they will understand it and trust it.
This is a good idea. It brings connection between the police and the community, and it averts situations like that to occur in our own community. We get used to the police, we interact with them, we get to know some of them or all of them. So it's a good idea.
We've been here 4 years, so it's good to also know, who's here in case you need help, in case there's something going on or any questions, any problems. So that's why we're here today.
I don't know what's happened in the years, but I don't know why we've become so separated from the police and the community. They're supposed to be like us. They're here to help us, not to be against us, and we're not supposed to be against the police.
The department will soon launch a body cam pilot program. A small squad of officers in each district will be equipped with the devices during the initial test phase. Well, earlier this week, the Prince George's Committee on Race Relations held a meeting at Largo High School. The topic was race relations and policing. Joining us to talk more about that and related issues are Dr. James Dula and Delegate Darrell Barnes. Thank you for joining us. Let's talk about, Delegate Barnes, that meeting you had this week.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was a great turnout. Let me just say that the community is in tune to what's going on as it relates to race relations. Mm-hmm. As I just watched the clip, I think it's exciting and informative that the police are coming out, but I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. Coming out once a month to me is not acceptable. The people that came out to the forum all expressed their ill wills mm-hmm. and the feelings that they're harboring, and these feelings have been harboring for years, that they are not being respected. I believe it's the perception that we have of the police and the perception that the police have of us. Mm-hmm.
Let's broaden this out a little bit. You had incidents this past week in Oklahoma and also North Carolina. I'll ask Dr. Dula, what's going on?
Well, my hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina seems to be going through a little bit of turmoil right now. But I think it's due to years of frustration. And when you stop and you take a look at what's happening in America, you have to take a look at it from a sociology standpoint, from the economics, the political, and the social. And engagement in our communities by our police officers at earlier ages will help end some of the violence and prevent it in the future. But that communication between both has to be extended to all across our whole society.
And how, Delegate Barnes, do you describe race relations, not just nationwide, but in this area?
Well, I think it's important, and we wanted to be on the forefront of preventing something from ever happening here. And just look at what just happened in Baltimore and the unrest there. There's two words that I often use, and that's hope and opportunity. Especially in the African American community. See, we hope for a better day. We hope that our circumstances change. But what we're often not given is the opportunity. See, these young people are telling me, Delegate Barnes, I don't want to do disruptive things. I don't want to sell drugs. I need a job. Mm-hmm. I need opportunities. And see, there's only so much that these young people are going to do playing basketball in the recreation centers all day. They need those opportunities for employment. And even though we're experiencing some good numbers here in Prince George's County, where our unemployment low is at a 4.7%, which is great, we still have pockets in our community that these people need those opportunities.
You had the two incidents we mentioned earlier in Tulsa, North Carolina. In one incident, the video was released, and the other one, the governor wanted to be a little less transparent. 2 reactions on the streets. What are we learning from this?
We're learning that transparency is very important. When you look at the news clips, you find out that people are saying that they believe the police, they're holding the news clips too long. So they want them to be released a lot quicker so that the public can make a determination on some of the items, some of the things they see when these things happen. So transparency is probably one of the most important topics.
And Delegate, would you say it's always better when people sitting down, even on opposite sides, and talking? And I ask that question because in the case of Mr. Crutcher, those on the right, so to speak, brought up his criminal record.
Sure.
And what does that do to help the conversation, or does it help the conversation?
I think it does not help the conversation because listen, we all have a past, and some of us may have a checkered past, but I believe that conversation has to start on both sides of the aisle. And I know I'm looking forward to session starting in January because I want to introduce legislation to help those things and foster better relationships within our community. And I think other elected officials and other community activists and leaders, we all have to come together if we want this to be the best county and the best place to live. Then we all have to do our part, and we all have to raise our hand and say enough is enough, and I want to do something about it.
You know, we hear a lot in these incidents that the person was not complying. But then you had the case in South Carolina last year when the officer asked him to get his wallet. He did. He was shot. The gentleman down in Florida, who worked the autistic boy, he was on the ground, hands up, he was shot. And then you had Mr. Crutcher, had his hands up in the air, appears to have his hands in the air, and he was shot. So even doing the right thing doesn't seem to be the right thing to do.
And doing the right thing and seeing it on film has caused a major gap in trust between our police officers and our community. So that's why it's very important that communication be a very important ingredient in this whole process, as well as transparency. So our police, they have their work to do. And getting back out into the community, not as a mass group, but individually. Sometimes if you see a child in the community, stop and say hello. Or if you see someone that is in need of help, stop and help them. But we've got to get back to basics to where it shows in our community that they care.
Okay, Dr. Dula, Delegate Barnes, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, a Bladensburg high school student was accidentally shot last night and has died. Police say the 16-year-old was in an apartment with several other teens on the 4200 block of 58th Avenue in Bladensburg. Police were called out at around 8 p.m. When they arrived, they found the teen with a gunshot wound. He was rushed to a hospital. Grief counselors were on hand at the teen's high school today. Anyone with any information is urged to call Prince George's County Police. And the investigation continues into an accident that left a Central High School special ed assistant dead. Police say 25-year-old Jadine Brooking was crossing Central Avenue on Wednesday when a car struck her. The driver remained at the scene and was not injured. Brooking was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators are now asking anyone who may have seen the accident to call police 301-731-4422. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Byron Scott.